Whoops. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breadcrumbs Project. Um, Trying to kick this all off, and I am uh, starting off slowly because I am production and I am also the talent in this effort, the Breadcrumbs Project. So, welcome. Glad to have you. And we are looking at the Romans, looking at the Latins, and trying to sort out what exactly are the Latins and what are the Romans and what the what. Because if you look at all the timelines, they just do not work. Okay, so this is the Roman Empire, 180 A.D. And the written records say that the Roman Empire established itself 27 BC. And you can't go to something that size in 100, 200, 300 years. So the information, the supporting data that we have for for the Roman Empire does not square with what is actually in the archaeological record, okay? And I've been saying this since I've really kicked off the Breadcrumbs Project because that is a cornerstone of the Breadcrumbs Project. That the written record does not at all square with the archaeological stone and um, mortar record in the ground. It just doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. And to have an empire covering this amount of territory from Egypt to Iberia, covering all of Iberia, and this it's a big country, y'all, and that's a lot of coastline. And then you're going up to Gaul and bouncing over to Great Britain, and that was done in a couple of hundred years by legionnaires, by sword. Logistically, I am not at all seeing it. For the longest time, I took for granted the Pax Romana was something like a 1500 years. And I had picked that up along the way in school that the Roman Empire was roughly 1500 years long. That I can accept. But the modern written record that I am researching and getting right now is telling me that the empire, the Roman Empire, was established 27 BC, and it's the Romans and the Roman Catholic Church that are using that term BC and AD. And I truly feel that the Christos is a real thing. I do. I absolutely do. And yeah, yeah. It's very much established in the written record that is older than the Roman Catholic Church. So I and the Christos, the word Christos is a Greek word, and in Jerusalem in those times they spoke Aramaic. They didn't speak Latin, and as best as I can tell, Latin really. No. I was going to say that Latin wasn't a day-to-day language, but obviously it was. But at a certain point, Latin stopped being used by the common people. I don't know if they ever did, and became a language used by the elites, doctors, lawyers, uh, priests, and the Roman Catholic Church. And I would certainly say by secret orders until they had to adapt to the local languages. So Latin is a very powerful word, a very powerful language, and is the reason Latin America is called Latin America. But what happened? Or let me retract that. Something happened, and I don't know for how long or when it exactly happened, because the written record is completely and utterly edited uh, for Western history in our Western history books. And I say that's for Europe and for the Americas. We don't know what's in the Russian archives that speaks to this or the Chinese archives. But at some point in time, there was a Roman Empire and a Gallic Empire that stretched from the Iberian Peninsula through Gaul to Great Britain. And these are two different empires. And somehow, not somehow, it's pretty easy to say, the Dark Ages came, and all of this area had its history burned to ashes. As many books as the Roman Empire could get its hands on, they burned them. The only places were the places that currently have a lot of these manuscripts and maps that are fully available and fully explain what truly happened. So everything you see right here, the Library of Alexandria, to whatever libraries there were within these regions, Ignatius, the Jesuits, the Roman Catholic Church. What I see happening in the archaeological record and in the spoken record is this, that the Roman Empire became debaucherous, and that it was just way too much. I think it was way too much for the Gallic Empire because the Romans and the Gallics both spoke Latin. What? Absolutely. 100%. And I think it's the Gallics that said, listen, these Romans are way too much. We have to find a way to get away from them. They found a way to um, the new land. I think they had all the technology to build things like boats, like cathedrals, like temples. They were the builders. And the rest of the Romans were just citizens and soldiers. They had their own senate, their own emperor, their own function, as did the Gaelic Empire. This is not well known history, but it is documented. And the weird and wild thing is that when it came to that confrontation time after there was the formal division, the emperor capitulated, and basically these lands were reabsorbed into the Roman Empire. And that could very well be true because I absolutely and firmly believe that the Latins bounced over here. Okay, this is Nova España and Nova Galicia. So I think this comes from the Iberian coast, and I believe that the um, let's see, oh yeah, that is another map location. We'll have to open that. Um, the New England coast, that's where the Anglicans went, and then north of that is where the Gauls went, the French, and established Canada. And this went on for a long time. I think that the Latins here took all the talent, the engineers, the builders, all of the people that had the ability to 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 build the magnificent cathedrals and build boats and what have you. And then I think that the Roman Empire, as it was, because really the empire didn't dissolve until the 1800s formally, and pretty much the Roman Empire was in Germany. The civilian side of it was mostly in Germany in the Roman Empire, and then the military and wealth and priestly side went to and created the Roman Catholic Church under Paul, under St. Paul. And basically, the Roman Catholic Church took the Greek writings of the Christos, who was a very important person at the time because he is, as he says, he was the last sacrifice, as it's documented. After that, sacrifice stopped throughout the Roman and Mediterranean Empire. So people were no longer sacrificing animals, and they became Christians through the Roman Catholic Church by the point of a sword, people. By the point of a sword. So I have great memory and conversations with people here in Spain where I live in Galicia, which is the tip right here. Let me zoom in and move, zoom in and move. So right up here, actually right over here is where I live along the coast. And there is a great memory, and I say the word great in air quotes, of the brutality of the Roman Catholic Church. So where I live currently, there is a monastery up the road, and before the Industrial Revolution, Spain was a fiefdom and survived on war and agronomy. And then through up to modern times, the the monasteries were those who mediated justice. The nobles entrusted the priests who were closest to the towns, basically the mayors, and then the monasteries were the county um, government, for lack of a better association, and they turned out the educated. So the monks would go out and educate the the wealthy, the children of the wealthy, the children of the nobility, and the children of the powerful. So from the from those top people, history would be retold. And so whenever the actual real date of the Middle East being plunged into the Dark Ages, whatever that date was the start of the burning of the history of the West and the reestablishing it of it. First of all, had to get rid of all possible, and then if there was anything that came up, then that would have to be reclassified as far as the date goes, and then everything was in the local languages. So Latin was only used for the laity in church, and they just had responses. They had no idea what the priests were saying or the monks, and that was a way for them to communicate in in plain sight and plain hearing. So they spoke the local language and they spoke Latin, and they could speak to each other in Latin in a secret occult code. And then through all of that, the rewriting of history was done. And so whatever the church wanted, the church got. And yeah, it is amazing. But this map breaks that code. All right, this map breaks the code because it is in two languages. Okay, the red buildings here, which are completely walled enclosures, which are very similar to the base walled enclosures in Europe, especially Spain and France. So yeah, there is a whole other story that's been told and then retold, burned, and a whole new story put forth to bury this right here. So there's Compostela, and there's a whole basic little village surrounded by walls with doors, but had towers, all kind of towers, and then surrounded by towns that have the names in the local dialect, not a howl. Some of these towns have meaning and some of them don't. But what screams at me is that these Latins have to be peaceful in nature. They have to be peaceful people in nature to have all of these buildings around and then surrounded by a local population that's not warring with them. And this is what tells me that the savagery of Rome made the beings that are the builders of such amazing things, such as cathedrals, um, want to hide from them for as long as possible. For as long as possible. Compostela is is just a dead giveaway that this is Latin. But what really is the giveaway is all of this language up here, which to anybody from outside of Europe, from outside of Spain, just anybody really. So a Spaniard looking at this would say, "Oh, I guess it's Old Spanish. That's what it is. It's Old Spanish." And that's what everybody would look at. Look at this map, and they would say, "Oh yeah, yeah." So the Spanish conquered Spain, and yeah, this works. This works because the Spaniards conquered Spain. Well, here's the problem: all of the ports are on the Pacific side. They're not on the um, they're not on the Gulf of Mexico side. And then you have that Latin all up here talking about people on the outside are naked and cannibals, uh, savages that are not interested in anything but hunting and gathering. And then you have all of these small villages surrounding these walled enclosures with towers. And so, yeah, I think for a while, um, they were okay with just letting Rome be Rome, and I don't think Rome had the technology to make sailboats like the one that's below here. Oh, sorry. Oh, over there. Yes. All right. That way. I don't know what I'm doing here. So you see the sailboats. The Roman, the Latins, the Gallics had these sophisticated boats. I don't think that the Romans, after these boats left, had a fleet anymore. I have the sinking feeling that the Gallics had conspired with the Latin navies with big sailboats to go with them on the far side of Mexico and leave Europe abandoned of sailing vessels, captains, and naval architects and builders, and took all of them with them over to the far side of Mexico, and that stranded the Roman Empire. And that's part of what sent them into the Dark Ages. A big part of me also thinks that it's them that established the Roman Catholic Church and the Freemasons and all of the occult mm, organizations, the clubs, the professional groups, um, the intergovernmental, international order of things, and as best they could. And then things got out of control. And the other organization that we fail to talk about in all of this is the City of London, the square mile. Again, compass and square. And compass and square is big for engineering. And the uh, Europe didn't have any engineers during the Dark Ages, during medieval times, and it wasn't until the Renaissance, after the discovery or detection of the Americas by Christopher Columbus, that we started getting a resurgence of engineering and the arts, and all of it came through the Roman Catholic Church system and universities, schools. Uh, most of your affluent schools were Roman Catholic Church schools. The Loyolas, the Jesuits, and the Jesuits were founded by Saint Ignatius, and Saint light it up. Ignatius is to light it up, burn it, and that's what the Jesuits were all about in the beginning of their order, and then re-educating the West to forget about the Gaelic Empire and just rewrite themselves out of history. So my guess is that they were part of the empire, and they're probably the republic, the foundation of the republic, with the Senate, with the two councils, with the Praetorian Guard to guard the elites. I think the elites were long skulled people and also giants. Absolutely. Yeah, it's wild, but genetically speaking, they were present. And so I think they were the great builders, the great masters and a portion of a remaining global order that was here. And I think the Roman Empire were just humans, and they just had gone rabid over time. Is my guess, is my wild guess. And and the Gaelic Empire just wanted to get away from the Roman Empire and all its debauchery because they weren't part of that. Excuse me. And so they seceded from the empire, and prior to that secession, prior to building a quick wall, they had already left and retreated, and the last of them had this wall between Roman Empire and the Gaelic Empire, and this included the Germans. So the Roman Empire could not see what the Gaelic Empire was doing with its emperor, with its senate, with all of its elite, all of its money, all of its power, all of its engineering talent, all of its everything. They couldn't see what was happening because it was happening on the far coast of the far side of Iberia, where I live. And there was a place here called Portus Magnus. Let's go take a look at that. Let's see, is this it? Yes. So this is what tells me that the timelines are just so way off that it's shocking. As you can say, this says interminum mare, Oceanicus Atlanticus. Up here, Cantabria mare. Mare is sea in Latin. Here we have Lusitania. So Lusitania on this map is established. And Magnum Promotorium. So I don't know what Magnum is, and we are going to find out. We'll translate. Magnium. Great Promontorium. There you go. I'll bring it over for you guys to see. Latin. Magnum. Great. And let's go ahead and promono pro, promonotorium. Ah, large promontory. Promontory, yeah. So there you go. This is Latin, an absolutely useless language to anybody in the world over there in Europe during when they say this was published. Done in Paris, 1827. By the way, by the way, I always and most Catholics assume, since they say that Ignatius de Loyola is Basque, that the Jesuit society, which was famously established by a couple of Basques, was done in the Basque region, was established in the Basque region, was set up in the Basque region, or in the north of Spain. It was not. Ignatius, which is again Latin for light, light it up, light the fires. Uh, the Jesuit Society was established in Paris. Yeah, in Paris. So there's a lot more going on in Paris than we know about, and that was the epicenter of the Renaissance, if you remember, and that's where great and learned people were coming out of was Paris. And this map is coming out of Paris in 1827 in full on Latin, which is a long dead language in 1827, only being used by the elites and um, by the elites, lawyers, doctors, wealthy, um, the church, famously. Only the elites were using Latin, and this map in Latin would have been useless to a ship's captain or to anybody, any cartographer. The other tell that says that this is a reproduction of an original, the plate that this came from is original. The copper plate that this came from is original, but it was not done by the cartographers of of Du Rio. Chez la route de Rua de Macrons. Um, it was not done by them because you can see that when they were doing the lettering for the names and the establishment, they were trying to reproduce this very nice detail on the uppercase lettering, and they did not do it. They were unable to do it. None of this type of writing is on the map at all, and even this on the address does not meet the intensity of the lettering of the map itself. You can just see that they're two different technologies. And even right here, when it has the um, the interpretation of miles, the French, the Romans, the Galicians, and Stades, I don't know who they are. But so this is definitely a map that was in France, but was based on Latin, the Roman Latin. And so they found this plate and just reissued it. This, though, is one of the earliest maps of Latin Spain that there is, and as well as the um, the Galia of France. Okay, so here we have Galicia with two L's, and this is Galia, and it's just two different peoples. You can see that the lettering up here is different than the lettering around here, and I think because the yellow line denotes that this is that France is still a wee bit wild and has not been um, civilized at this point, which again tells a whole other story than the written history. But Spain is well colonized by the Latins. The thing is, though, they don't have the modern names. So this should be A Coruña, but it's Coronium. Let's whip out the old translator. Coron, Caronium. Oh, oh, oh. Well, that's unexpected. It's Carol, but I think I need to split it up into two words. Actually, let me do it. Karen juice. But if I put, oh gosh, I keep taking it away, guys. I'm sorry. So I shouldn't be doing that. I'm used to doing that here, working by myself. So Karen juice, but it is coron, which is crown. Let me put that together again. All right, crown. So here, now I can take this away without bothering y'all. Um, so here is a crown has been established, a kingdom, and Galicia is famous, and we still call ourselves the Kingdom of Galicia. So the crown was set here, and here is Magnus Portus, a major port here, and all along the coast of Galicia and of Lusitania is amazing ports for the Atlantic. And that is why Galicia stayed the way it did and Portugal was established. Portugal is basically old Lusitania, and Galicia is Galicia um, and Hispania. And I will leave you guys with this because I am over 30 minutes by a long shot. I believe that all the silver that was being found in Mexico, which is a lot of it, a lot of silver and gold was being shipped to the Iberian Peninsula, to Galicia, to Portugal, to be distributed to the nobility of Europe so that the Europeans will stay in line and stay the heck away from the Americas for as long as possible. So when the Gaelic Empire left, the Dark Ages descended upon, well, no, I don't want to say that. When the Galicians left, the Roman Empire descended upon all of Europe and did what we know in history. So I think that the division of the Gaelic Empire happened a lot later. I mean, a lot earlier in history. I just doubt this date of 260 AD. But I'm also down with it if we're following the Roman calendar, which right now it's 2779 AD. So this happening 2,000 years ago, that I can buy into. But yes, the whole history was rewritten, and the Gaelic Empire wrote themselves out of the history through the Roman Catholic Church and through the Roman Catholic education system. And and yeah, and the gold and silver coming the from Mexico and the Americas was coming into Galicia and Portugal and supporting the states and the crown. I will have to find the article and I'll do it on our next show tomorrow, where Spain had so much silver it basically became worthless. It had no trade value, and that can happen. All right, thank you all very much for watching. This is the Breadcrumbs Project. If you stayed this long, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Would love to have you to be a part of it. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks.